If you're a business out there that has had trouble collecting monies owed to you for your services or for your goods, I know there's a lot of attorneys that you can choose from. This is our focus of our practice. And I've made this video to give you an idea of how our firm is different than others and some of the tips we use to go collect that money for you. One of the most important things is we review the file, we determine if there's any type of counterclaims, because you sure don't want to file suit and find out your client has a claim against it that's bigger than yours. So we look at making sure that our client's clean. And at least we make them aware of potential problems with it. The second is we looked at the collectability of it. I mean, you can get a judgment, but getting a judgment's that's just part of it. People want money. They don't want to come to us, pay us money to get a piece of paper. They want money back. So the collectability, again, that tool that we have, it finds out so much information. So if I got one that had $240,000 a federal tax lien and have 3 judgments against it for $60,000, $40,000, and $300,000, someone says, hey, let's go collect $70,000. Do you want the case? We say, you may not want to even do that. Let me call the other sides and see if they're making any payments, because your likelihood is you don't want to spend more good money after bad. So that's important. The other part is when we file our suit, we file discovery with it. So we make them have admissions, we make them do interrogatories. So we're putting the test. So the attorney on the other side knows they're into it. So they better get a big retainer from the other side. So we come after them hard, fast. Initial disclosures with every petition that goes out. So that's important. And then the other part is we look for personal liability. What separates us is this is what we do. A lot of attorneys try to file suits, but we look to see, is there any way we can pierce the corporate veil? And I say that is, did they pay their franchise taxes? We look at the Secretary of State's office, and if they haven't paid their franchise tax during the period of time that they received the goods, we'll go after them individually. And they say, no, we're a corporation. We reinstated. That caught us by surprise. We owe the state $500 or we didn't make this filing, but we corrected it. Doesn't matter. You can't, if those goods went out that time that you were not in good standing with the corporation, you can't clean it up later. You can clean it up, but it's not going to help against us. We're going to sue you individually. The other thing is there a fraud? Have you done something that's so outside and so bad that you're buying goods with no intent to pay it back? Then we're going to try to sue you individually. Again, we got to be really careful. Those are tough cases, so we're careful of what we do. The other part is once we obtain the judgment, most attorneys get an abstracted judgment, get a writ of execution, and that's it. Not us. We're going to send out post-judgment discovery, make them produce tax returns, make them produce financial statements, ask all the assets. It's about 65 pages. And most people don't want to fill that out. So then we'll go to the court and say we're going to compel them to answer that. And the judge will sign an order to compel 98% of the time, it seems like. We get that order to compel, they go out there, and we send it out there, and all of a sudden the judge is ordered. If they don't follow through within 30 days of that order to compel, we go to order to show cause. That we have to serve them by the constable. The judge will sign that order to show cause to appear at my court, the judge's court, and determine why you haven't answered the discovery. Because you can't go to jail for not paying a debt, generally, that's the rule. However, you can go to jail if you violated a court order and disrespected the judge's order. So they'll bring him to the court, the constable. Generally, you just have to post a $100 bond, and then they can, as long as they agree to come back. But it's amazed at how many of those orders to show cause. The last 2 cases I talked about earlier, we got them to the table besides the depositions, because when you do order to show cause, they do not want to come back in there. And it's embarrassing if they're at work or they're at home and their family's there, to be all of a sudden the constable comes out there and says, hey, you need to go to the courthouse with me now. So that's where we take the next step. The other is we have a lot of tools. There are so many tools. Even though this is a debtor-oriented state, there's a lot of tools out there. There's receiverships. That's one of the last steps. But we can put business into receivership. We can get turnover orders like we talked about before. We can't garnish wages, but we can garnish their bank accounts. Then there's also, we look to see, has there been a fraudulent conveyance? If you start moving assets around when the demand is made, or anytime after a demand is made upon you, or before judgment, or after judgment, any of that time, we can go back that 4 years, and even, I believe, 1 more year, and we'll go file. We have several lawsuits out there now that we filed a fraudulent conveyance case against them. If you transferred monies from you to somebody else, we're going to sue that somebody else and go after them. So it'll be another lawsuit. So there's a lot of tools in our toolbox that we can use. And again, I talked about the remedies as far as the charging order, about the The receiverships, that's one of the best ones too. Again, we don't do that because we don't do that till the very end. That's our last ditch effort. What we have to do, which is what other attorneys don't do, is we have to find ways for the debtor that's in this real pickle. Because not only do they owe us, they probably owe other people. We have to give them incentive, encouragement, and figure out a way to get them to pay us. The way to do that is to have a great arsenal behind you. What's an arsenal? It means we have motions we can take to the court, motions to compel, motions to show cause on why they shouldn't be held in contempt. Receivership. There's a lot that a creditor attorney can do that we have to our disposal. Do we do them all? We do them in piecemeal. Whatever it takes to get the money, that's what we have to do. And sometimes what we have to do is we have to have that, they know that it's coming, and we're going to throw everything at them. It's sort of like if you go to war in the United States, you have to have the guns, the tanks, the airplanes. They have to know you're willing to do it. That doesn't mean you have to go throw it at them and do it all at once. Do it in piecemeal to get their attention. Once we get their attention, we've got to find a way to get them to resolve their problem. Because if they just put their head in their sand or go to bankruptcy court, that doesn't get the recovery my client needs. So we have to understand what's going on in their life and then find a way to resolve the problem, not only for our client, but also for them. They generally have counsel, we resolve it, and it's a deal that all of a sudden that turns that accounts receivable into cash. And it may take some time to get it, but that's what we do.